The wind carried the screams across the village of Umudibia. Damilola, the midwife, clutched the pregnant girl's hand as they fled through the forest. Behind them, torches flickered between the trees as the elders gave chase. Hurry, Chiamaka, the boundary stone is just ahead, Damilola gasped, pulling the terrified girl forward. But as they reached the stone marking the village limits, a figure stepped from the shadows. Elder Ekene, his face impassive beneath the moonlight. Damilola, you disappoint me, he said softly. Did you think we wouldn't notice another mother missing? Before Damilola could respond, the air around them thickened. From the darkness behind Ekene emerged 5 women with hollow eyes and torn bellies, their arms outstretched toward Chiamaka's unborn child. Please, begged Damilola, she's just a girl. Elder Ekin's eyes flashed with something like regret, but his voice remained firm. The village must endure. Our prosperity demands sacrifice. The spectral women moved closer, their mouths opening in unison as they released that terrible, hungry scream. 10 years later, Dr. Adanze Okafor stepped off the dusty bus, her medical bag clutched tightly in her hand. Umudibia hadn't changed. The same red earth roads, the same thatched roofs among newer zinc ones, the same heavy air that seemed to press secrets into one's skin. Adanze, Nwanem, a voice called out. Her brother-in-law Uche approached, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. You've come. Neka will be so pleased. How is she? Adanze asked, stirring his face. The pregnancy is complicated. The elders say it's because she married outside the village. He wouldn't meet her gaze. But now that you're here, doctor, maybe things will improve. As they walked through the village, Adanze noticed how people whispered behind their hands, how mothers pulled children closer as she passed. A decade in Lagos couldn't erase the mark of being born here, of being the girl who asked too many questions. The hospital sent me her test results, Adanze said. There's no medical explanation for her symptoms. Uche's shoulders stiffened. Some things, Nwane M. Wanye, cannot be explained by your city medicine. I'm still Igbo, Uche. I haven't forgotten everything. Haven't you? He stopped walking. Then you remember to respect the elders and their wisdom. Neka would be better already if she followed their guidance completely. Before Adanze could reply, a child ran up to them, eyes wide. Teacher Kelechi says to come quickly. Something's wrong with Neka. They rushed to Adanze's childhood home, now Neneka's marital home. Inside, her sister lay on a mat, her pregnant belly distended unnaturally, her breathing shallow. Beside her knelt a man Adanze didn't recognize, handsome, with kind eyes and a worried expression. I'm Kelechi, the school teacher, he said, standing. I was bringing books when I found her like this. Adanze dropped to her knees, medical training taking over. Neka, it's me. Can you hear me? Neka's eyes fluttered open, her pupils dilated with fear. Adanze, she whispered, they're stealing from me while I sleep. I can feel them, reaching inside. Who is stealing from you? Adanze pressed the stethoscope to her sister's belly. The empty mothers, Neka whispered. They want what's mine. Uche made a sharp gesture. She's been having these delusions. The elders say it's just the baby taking her strength. But Adanze had seen the heartbeat on the ultrasound in Lagos. Strong and healthy. Something else was draining her sister. She needs hospital care, Adanze declared, packing her bag. No. The word came not from Uche, but from the doorway. where Elder Ekene now stood with 3 village women. Neka stays here, where we can care for her properly. With all due respect, Elder, Adanze began, rising to her feet. My sister needs. What she needs, Ekene interrupted, his voice gentle but unyielding, is to remember who she is and where she belongs. Isn't that why she sent for you, doctor? Not to take her away, but to bring you back. The women moved past him, surrounding Neka with practiced efficiency. One began burning herbs, another chanting softly, while the third pressed a dark liquid to Neka's lips. This is superstition, not medicine, Adanze protested. And yet, Elder Eken replied, our ways kept this village prosperous while others failed. Your education is impressive, Adanze Okafor, but do not mistake knowledge for wisdom. After they left, Kelechi found Adanze sitting outside, fighting back tears of frustration. The elder's influence runs deep here, he said, sitting beside her, deeper than you might remember. What's happening to my sister isn't spiritual. Something's physically wrong with her. Kelechi glanced around before speaking. There have been patterns, pregnant women falling ill, especially those carrying children of mixed village blood, like Neka's baby. Yes, and afterward, he hesitated. The records in the school go back generations. Birth records, death records. I've noticed discrepancies. Adanze stared at him. What kind of discrepancies? Missing babies, mothers who died in childbirth, but no infant deaths recorded alongside them. He lowered his voice. And graves that look disturbed. Something cold settled in Adanze's stomach. Why are you telling me this? Kelechi's eyes met hers. Because no one else will. And because the last person who asked too many questions disappeared 3 months ago. Who? Damilola, the midwife. One day she was helping mothers deliver. The next, he drew a finger across his throat. That night, Adanze dreamed of women with torn bellies standing in a circle around her sleeping sister, their hands reaching toward her swollen womb. She woke, gasping, the echo of their hungry wails still ringing in her ears. 3 days passed with Neka growing weaker, despite Adanze's best efforts. The elders allowed basic treatments, but insisted their rituals continue alongside. Uche grew increasingly hostile to Adanze's medical interventions. She's getting worse because you're fighting the natural order, he accused. There's nothing natural about this, Uche, Adanze snapped. Her blood work shows severe anemia, but she's not bleeding anywhere. It's as if something is literally draining her life force. You've been gone too long, he replied. You've forgotten what matters here. That afternoon, Adanze met Kelechi secretly at the old school building. He spread the brittle papers across his desk, birth and death records dating back decades. Look here, he pointed. 40 years of records. Every generation, the same pattern. Pregnant women die, but their babies don't appear in either birth or death records. They simply vanish. That's impossible, Adanze whispered, but cold certainty was already forming in her mind. There's more. Kelechi pulled out a worn journal. This belonged to Damilola. I found it hidden in her home after she disappeared. The journal detailed Damilola's growing suspicion about the elders and their special interest in certain pregnancies, always women carrying babies with bloodlines from outside the village. She described helping women escape and witnessing disturbing rituals where the elders seemed to extract something from the wombs of dying mothers, not the babies themselves, but something connected to them. Adanze's hands trembled. This is insane. Is it? Kelechi's voice was soft. Look at our village, Adanze. No drought affects us. No disease sweeps through. Our crops grow when others fail. What if there's a price for that prosperity? That night, unable to sleep, Adanze followed Uche when he left the house shortly before midnight. He walked to the village square where several elders, including Ekene, waited. Together, they proceeded to a small hut at the edge of the forest. One Adanze didn't remember from her childhood. Creeping closer, she peered through a crack in the wall. Inside, the elders knelt before what appeared to be a massive web of intricately woven cords, hundreds of them, stretching from floor to ceiling. The cords pulsed with an unearthly light, each one leading out through the walls in different directions. Elder Ekin dipped his hands in oil and ran them along several cords, which brightened at his touch. The old ones weaken, he said. We need fresh strength if the village is to survive the coming dry season. The doctor complicates things, said another elder. The sister fights the calling. She'll surrender to it eventually, Uche replied, his voice cold and unfamiliar. They all do when the empty mothers come. Adanze backed away, her heart pounding. But as she turned to flee, she collided with a figure in the darkness, a woman in a tattered dress, her belly torn open and empty. Adanze screamed, scrambling backward as the apparition reached for her with desperate hands. More figures emerged from the forest, women with hollow eyes and gaping wounds where their wombs should be, all reaching toward Adanze with silent, pleading gestures. The hut door flew open. Elder Ekene stood silhouetted against the light, his face grim. You should not have come here, doctor, he said softly. Some knowledge cannot be unlearned. The women surged forward, but instead of attacking Adanze, they formed a circle around her, as if protecting her from the elders. Ekin's eyes widened. Impossible. They've never. A voice spoke from the darkness. They recognize her blood. Damilola stepped forward, thinner than in Kelechi's description, her eyes haunted but determined. Run, Adanze, she commanded. Run, now. Adanze fled through the forest, the wails of the spectral women echoing behind her. When she reached Neka's house, she found her sister convulsing on her mat, blood seeping between her legs. The baby's coming, Adanze gasped, dropping to her knees. Too early! Neka clutched her hand with surprising strength. Not coming, she whispered. Being taken? In the chaotic hours that followed, Adanze fought desperately to save her sister and the unborn child. But as dawn broke, Neka slipped away, her eyes fixed on something Adanze couldn't see. They're here, were her final words. Before Adanze could process her grief, Uche and the elders arrived to take Neka's body. It is our way, Elder Ekene said gently. We prepare our dead. No, Adanze stood her ground. I need to examine her, to understand what happened. You already know what happened, Uche said flatly. The pregnancy was too difficult. She was too weak. That's a lie, Adanze shouted. Something was draining her strength. Someone was taking. A sharp pain exploded in the back of her head, and darkness claimed her. When Adanze awoke, Neka's body was gone. Kelechi sat beside her, dabbing her head with a damp cloth. "They've taken her to the sacred grove," he said quietly, "for the ritual." "What ritual?" Adanze demanded, struggling to her feet. "The harvesting." Kelechi's voice broke. "I'm sorry, Adanze. I should have told you everything sooner, but I was afraid. The elders, they control everything here." "Tell me now," she commanded. The truth was worse than she imagined. For generations, the Oro Society, the village's secret council of elders, had been harvesting umbilical cords from dying pregnant women. These destiny cords were believed to contain the unborn child's fate, their connection to the ancestors and to the future. The elders wove these cords into a massive binding spell that tied the village's prosperity to their will. But the magic demands balance, Kelechi explained. For every blessing, a sacrifice. The mothers who lose their children this way cannot rest. Their spirits remain trapped, hungry for what was taken from them. "The empty mothers," Adanze whispered. "Yes, they search for replacement children, for wombs to fill the void. The elders use them to identify which pregnant women carry the strongest destiny cords, like Neka. Her child, born of two villages, would have carried a powerful destiny, a cord that could sustain the village through many seasons." Rage filled Adanze. "And Uche, was he part of this all along?" Kelechi looked away. The elders approached him before the marriage, promised him position, wealth, influence. He sold his own child's destiny, Adanze spat, "and my sister's life. Many in the village believe the sacrifice is necessary, that without it we would all suffer. Drought would come, disease would spread." "And you? What do you believe?" Kelechi met her gaze. "I believe no prosperity is worth such a price." That night, Adanze and Kelechi snuck into the sacred grove where Neka had been buried. The fresh earth over her grave had already been disturbed. When they dug down, they found her womb cut open, the umbilical cord removed. "We're too late," Adanze whispered. But as they turned to leave, they found themselves surrounded by the spectral women, the empty mothers, dozens of them, their hollow bellies glowing with an unearthly light. At their center stood Damilola. "They won't hurt you," she said. "They protect their own. You carry their blood, Adanze. Your grandmother was one of them. She survived the ritual, though her child did not. That's why you left, isn't it? Because even as a child, you could see them when others couldn't." The forgotten memories rushed back. The nightmares, the women at her window, her grandmother's warnings never to walk alone at night. "The cycle must be broken," Damilola continued. "The cords must be released. Only then can the mothers rest." "How?" Adanse demanded. "The binding spell can only be undone by blood of their blood. Someone like you. And on the nights when the barrier between worlds is thinnest." Damilola pointed to the sky, where the moon was beginning to darken. "The eclipse, tonight." But they weren't alone in the grove. From the shadows stepped Elder Ekine and Uche, along with several village men. "Enough of this," Ekene said, his voice heavy with authority. "Adanze Okafor, you have disturbed sacred ground and conspired with enemies of the village. Your education has filled your head with dangerous ideas." "Dangerous?" Adanze laughed bitterly. "You steal destinies from unborn children. You trap women's spirits between worlds. You sacrifice innocence for your own gain. And you call my ideas dangerous? We do what must be done. Eken shouted, his composure finally breaking. For generations, my family has carried this burden, making the hard choices so others don't have to. My own grandchild was given to the ritual when famine threatened. Do you think I wanted this responsibility? Then end it, Adanze pleaded. Help us break the cycle. For a moment, doubt flickered across the old man's face. But Uche stepped forward. Enough talk. Take them. The men moved forward, but so did the spectral women, forming a protective circle around Adanze, Kelechi, and Damilola. We need to reach the binding heart, Damilola whispered, before the eclipse reaches totality. They fled through the forest, the angry shouts of the men following them. The spectral women moved alongside, their torn bodies flickering like candle flames in the darkness. When they reached the hut, Adanze gasped at the sight of the massive web of cords, pulsing, living strands that stretched out through the walls and into the earth beneath the village. Each cord connects to a home, a field, a well, Damilola explained. The prosperity flows through them like blood through veins. And the price? Adanze asked. The elders control who thrives and who suffers. They determine which families flourish and which diminish. They hold the village's fate in their hands. Adanze approached the web, reaching out to touch one of the cords. It throbbed beneath her fingers, warm and alive. How do we undo it? With blood freely given and truth finally spoken, Damilola replied, handing Adanze a sharp bone knife. Cut the master cord there at the center and speak the true names of the stolen ones. Outside, the men's voices grew closer. Kelechi barred the door with his body. Hurry, he urged. Adanze raised the knife but hesitated. If I cut it, what happens to the village? Balance will be restored, Damilola said. Prosperity must be earned, not stolen. There will be hardship, yes, but also freedom. The door splintered as the men outside rammed against it. Kelechi strained to hold it closed. Adanze pressed the knife against her palm and sliced deeply, letting her blood drip onto the central cord. I speak your true names, she began, her voice strengthening. I name you, grandmother. I name you, sister. I name all women whose destinies were stolen, whose children were taken before first breath. The web began to vibrate, the cords shimmering with increasing intensity. The knife cut through the central cord just as the door burst open. Elder Ekene and Uche rushed in, their faces contorted with rage and fear. Stop! Ekene cried. You don't know what you're doing. But it was too late. The cut cord thrashed like a wounded snake, its severed ends spraying golden light across the hut. One by one, the other cords began to snap, unraveling from the walls and ceiling. The spectral women materialized fully now, dozens of them, their torn bellies suddenly whole again, their eyes clear and bright. Among them stood Neka, holding a baby to her chest. Sister, she whispered to Adanze, you freed us. Uche fell to his knees. Neka, he sobbed, forgive me. Outside, the village erupted in chaos as the binding spell dissolved. Crops withered in an instant, wells ran dry, and livestock fell ill. All the false prosperity built on stolen destinies collapsing at once. Elder Eken watched in despair as his life's work unraveled. "What have you done? The village will die." "No," Adanze replied firmly. "It will learn to live honestly, to prosper through work and wisdom, not sacrifice and theft." As the eclipse reached totality, the spectral women began to fade, their forms dissolving into motes of golden light. Neka approached Adanze one last time. "The child lives on, sister. Not in this world, but the next. When your time comes, I will be waiting." She pressed something into Adanze's hand, a tiny bracelet woven from what looked like umbilical cord. "Remember us." Then she was gone, along with all the others, leaving the hut in darkness. In the weeks that followed, Umudibia faced hardship unlike any in living memory, but they endured. Adanze stayed, establishing a proper clinic that worked alongside traditional healing methods, the wholesome ones that caused no harm. Kelechi continued teaching, ensuring the true history would never be forgotten. Elder Ekene, his power broken but his knowledge still valuable, eventually became an ally in rebuilding the village on new foundations. And Damilola, who had survived against impossible odds, trained a new generation of midwives who honored both mother and child equally. The prosperity that gradually returned to Umudibia came from honest labor and true community, not from stolen destinies or hungry spirits. And on nights when the moon darkens, the villagers tell the story of the empty mothers who finally found peace and the destiny cords that now bind the village not to power, but to truth. Adanze sometimes walks to her sister's grave, the small bracelet tied around her wrist. She listens for the hungry wails that once echoed through the forest, but hears only the night birds calling and the wind in the leaves. The village remembers, the village endures, and the unborn rest in peace. As the embers of our tale fade into darkness, I ask you this, my friends. What price would you pay for prosperity? The elders of Umudibia believe some burdens must be carried in silence, some knowledge kept hidden for the greater good. But secrets, like the spirits of the empty mothers, always find their way into the light. In your own village, your own family, what truths lie buried? What silent agreements keep peace at the cost of justice? Perhaps, like Adanze, you stand at the crossroads between tradition and truth, between what has always been and what could be. Tell me, if you held the bone knife in your hand, would you cut the cord that binds, even knowing the pain that follows freedom? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more thought-provoking tales from folktales from African mythology.